2022 has been a whirlwind of a year for top Thrill Dragster fans. Up until recently, the coaster's fate had been hanging in the balance ever since it was shut down for the remainder of the 2021 season due to an August 2021 incident where a park guest was injured by a rogue ride part. It was then announced back in February that the coaster would remain closed for the entire 2022 season as well, and speculation regarding its future began spreading like wildfire. Fast forward to September 6th, after months of silence from Cedar Point, an update was finally released stating that Top Thrill Dragster, as we know it, would be retired, and that they're hard at work creating a new and reimagined ride experience. And just like a Thanos snap, the former speculation disappeared and an entirely new flame of speculation had been born as to what changes would be made for this reimagined version of Dragster. But today I wanted to take a step back and look at everything from Cedar Point's perspective to help gain some insight as to what the reimagined Dragster could look like. Because I think there's some low-hanging fruit there that's perfectly ripe for the picking. The only question is, will Cedar Point dare to reach for it? So let's go ahead and talk about Cedar Point's ultimate goal for Top Thrill Dragster Reimagined. For starters, to explain what I mean by ultimate goal, I'm essentially asking, other than obviously increasing park revenue, what are the main results Cedar Point is hoping to achieve from this project? Or in a nutshell, what's the main purpose of this new coaster? For example, are they trying to hit a specific height or speed record? Are they focused more on increasing ride capacity and reliability? Or are they perhaps primarily focused on finding a cost-effective way to build a new ride experience that still utilizes the iconic top hat? I believe trying to answer questions like these regarding different potential goals can help us gain some perspective on what Cedar Point actually has planned. Now, ideally, they try to hit all these marks. However, only one of these goals can truly be the top priority. So which one are they mainly focused on? And which one should they be focused on? Well, let's first take a quick look back over the past 28 years to see what some of their new coasters brought to the table, and let me know down in the comments if you begin noticing a trend here. And then afterwards, I'll tell you why I think they can actually achieve all the potential goals I've listed. But for now, let's take a quick trip back to the 90s. In 1994, Raptor opened as the world's tallest, fastest, and longest inverted coaster, essentially making it a bigger custom version of the extremely popular Batman the Ride. 1996, Mantis opened as the world's tallest, fastest, and longest stand-up coaster, taking an already proven model and making a bigger version of it. 2000, Millennium Force opened as the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster, basically making it a larger custom version of the Intamin Superman Ride of Steel model. 2002, Wicked Twister opened as the world's tallest and fastest inverted coaster, which was a larger and faster version of the popular Intamin Impulse model. 2003, featuring the subject of our video, Top Thrill Dragster opened as the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster, making it a bigger and faster version of the Intamin Accelerator model. And to help speed things up, Gatekeeper in 2013, Valraven in 2016, and Steel Vengeance in 2018 all opened as the tallest, fastest, and longest versions of their respective coaster models. So with the exception of Maverick in 2007, Cedar Point has always gone for some sort of record for every major new roller coaster edition, dating all the way back to Magnum in 1989. It's the world's worst kept secret that Cedar Point loves breaking records. But that's only half of the equation when it comes to their historic trends. You see, they have a pretty clear formula worked out where they take an already established coaster model and make a taller, faster, fill-in-the-blankier version of it. And the already established coaster model part is important to note since it shows they don't exactly have a track record of being the first to introduce a new type of coaster. So what does this all mean for Top Thrill Dragster Reimagined? Well, it may come as a surprise based on Cedar Point's track record, but I definitely don't think they are going for the overall height record. Why not? Because frankly, they don't need to. And here's why. Much of the general public won't know any better. To help illustrate this point, I visited Toronto back in 2019 and was not at all dialed into the coaster community at the time. But one of my Uber drivers during my trip told me that the park nearby just opened the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the world. I was like, huh, no kidding. So I looked it up, and first of all, I discovered that Canada's Wonderland was a thing that exists. But most of all, I discovered that my Uber driver was talking about Yukon Striker, which had indeed just opened as the world's tallest, fastest, and longest dive coaster. You see, he left the dive coaster part out, probably because he didn't even pay attention to it. His main takeaway from whatever advertisement he heard or saw were the words tallest, fastest, and roller coaster. And I think a lot of your average casual theme park guests would have the same takeaway. The kicker to that too is Yukon Striker isn't even the tallest coaster at Canada's Wonderland, as they already had opened Leviathan back in 2012. But I digress. So what does my Canada story have to do with Cedar Point? Glad you asked. I think it shows that Cedar Point doesn't need to go for the height and speed record, but simply just needs to go for a height and speed record. Because based on the way the marketing is framed, I think many people will still leave the park thinking they rode the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the world if they see those words tallest and fastest. They couldn't care less about the actual coaster type, just as long as the words tallest and fastest are part of the marketing. And another thing to consider from Cedar Point's perspective is that Top Thrill Dragster hasn't been the world's tallest or fastest anything since 2005. And ever since 2010, it's only been able to stake its claim as the second tallest coaster in the world and the third fastest in the world. So it sure would be nice to be the tallest and fastest at something again, right? Of course it would. Which leads me into the low-hanging fruit I was referring to. The record of tallest and fastest multi-launch coaster is right there for the taking. Which, by the way, go ahead and Google world's tallest multi-launch coaster. Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg is the only thing that comes up, which is touted as the world's fastest multi-launch coaster, but even Pantheon's own page doesn't call itself the tallest multi-launch coaster, only the fastest. So I don't know why Google can't provide me with a straight answer. But fear not, as I did some digging on RCDB to see if I could find the tallest multi-launch coaster, and unless I overlooked one, which is entirely possible, so please feel free to let me know in the comments if I missed something obvious, but it looks like the honor is currently held by Soaring with Dragon, located in China. It opened in 2016, and it's an Intamin multi-launch coaster featuring a multi-pass swing launch like Pantheon's, and features the newer Intamin trains and restraints, which are outstanding and can be found on both Pantheon and Velocicoaster. Anyway, the ride's stats are listed with a height of about 197 feet and top speed of almost 78 miles per hour, which is actually faster than Pantheon. So if Cedar Point were to add another launch section to Dragster's layout, it's really all they'd need to secure the record for the world's tallest and fastest multi-launch coaster. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to downplay of how massive of an undertaking that would be. I'm just trying to offer up the most realistic record they could go after. And hey, maybe it's a stretch here, but is it possible that Cedar Point has a little added incentive to overtake Pantheon's record? The reason I ask is because SeaWorld Entertainment built Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa, which overtook Steel Vengeance for the hybrid coaster records of height, speed, and angle of descent by just 1 foot, 2 miles an hour, and 1 degree, respectively. So, is it possible Cedar Point will try to punch back at SeaWorld out of spite by just blowing Pantheon out of the water? Let me know down in the comments if you think that could be some added motivation or not. Now, whether or not Cedar Point is actually going for any record, of course, remains to be seen. And although their track record seems to obviously point in that direction as a main goal, I actually don't think that's their primary focus for the project. And here's why. With the moves the park has made over the past couple years, it's very apparent they're trying to pay more attention to the entire family unit and improving the overall guest experience. So I wouldn't put it past them if increasing ride reliability and capacity were their actual top priority for Dragster Reimagined, because Top Thrill Dragster has notoriously been one of the absolute most unreliable roller coasters ever built, and it always seemed to be down more often than not. And I personally think that's their actual top priority with this project. The number one complaint about Cedar Point is that it always feels so crowded and lines are too long. And with social media these these days, I'm sure the park is very well aware that they need this reimagined dragster to be way more reliable, therefore having a much higher capacity and throughput, which will all help with crowd dispersion and wait times throughout the park and ultimately lead to an overall improvement in guest satisfaction. So in the end, should breaking a record be Cedar Point's main objective for this project? Probably not. However, I do think that breaking a record is a very realistic potential byproduct of the project. And I say that because at this point, much of the coaster's track has been removed, but the top hat has remained seemingly untouched. So I don't think it's a stretch to assume the reimagined dragster will still utilize the top hat. And if the top hat is in fact staying, then I think it would be a wasted opportunity if they didn't at least make their 420-foot coaster the tallest coaster in some sort of classification. But ultimately, the main focus should be on the reliability and capacity. And in fact, it looks like that process is already taking shape using the removed sections of track as a point of reference, as the launch section was one of the first things we saw being torn down. So it seems highly likely that the reimagined dragster will have an entirely new, more reliable LSM launch system, as opposed to the former unreliable hydraulic launch system, which was always the true major issue for the coaster right from day one. Now, of course, I'd personally love it if Cedar Point went above and beyond replacing just the launch and added even more to the layout, but I'm not here to speculate on whether or not it's even possible or likely to happen, and I'm very well aware that the launch section might have to be extended for an LSM launch to gather enough speed, since the acceleration won't be as aggressive as a hydraulic launch. But at the end of the day, I'm going to manage my expectations by not assuming a huge change out of the project. For all I know, we might just get a name change, a new paint job, new theming, and a new, more reliable launch system with the same basic Top Thrill Dragster layout we've always had. So to sum everything up, if Cedar Point is in fact trying to break any records with Top Thrill Dragster Reimagined, I think the easy ones to take aim at are the multi-launch records, and I think they can absolutely accomplish this while still having reliability as their paramount concern. But let me know what you all think about Dragster Reimagined. What do you think Cedar Point's top priority actually is on this project, and what do you think it should be? And of course, let me know what changes you really want to see from the reimagined Top Thrill Dragster. Now, I'm going to take a wild guess that you're probably a huge fan of coasters and theme parks if you clicked on this video. So why not go ahead and subscribe for more content just like this? And if you enjoyed the video, guys, do me a huge favor, hit the thumbs up, as it really helps the channel grow. And more importantly, if you like coaster rankings and sharing your coaster opinions, go ahead and watch this video of my current top 15 coaster rankings and let me know just how wrong I am with all my coaster takes. And of course, thank you so much for watching, guys. I've been Mike with Trout Takes, and we'll see you all real soon.